Sanctuary Life Institute. Welcome each and all of you to tell. I invite you to go forward the question mark. We can move ourselves into a place that fits who we truly are. So I hope that has a question. He seems to have one. Translate.
Well, I know that question.
Great.
Feeling.
Yes.
What's happening with me right is that I knew Chris long ago and far away. Seeing her again now after all this time brings many to mind. I find myself thinking about El Salvador,
Yes.
In the Peace Corps. I find myself thinking about Dick Griscom and about Karen,
Yes.
who Chris and Dick honored me by naming me the godfather of Karen, who
Yes.
I also haven't seen ever since she was very little. But I saw her yesterday, and that was a very meaningful, special event for me. And thinking about Dick, all of us together there in the ceremony yesterday, it was amazing that he kind of created that,
Yes.
in his life to bring us all back together again.
Yes. You know, there is that pulse in life.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing ever is. The greatest teaching, perhaps, that has brought all the knowing that I have to me was my time in the Peace Corps in Salvador, where many, many babies died in my arms, and I learned from them about life and death. The recognition that consciousness is not attached to the body. It is not. When we dream at night, when we have operations, when we use drugs, the consciousness expands past the body. And I witness so many miracles and so many incredible touches of the meaning of life and the meaning of death in Salvador that it completely changed what I thought was real, what I thought could be true in life. And so we were a part of that together.
Mm-hmm.
And so Dick's passing, I feel that when we leave our body, when we die, that everyone who has known us is changed by our death because they inherit. I wrote a book called Psychogenetics, The Force of Heredity. And I was talking about in there how we inherit qualities from each other because we are templates for each other, we model each other. And so when people pass, being a minister myself, performing those kinds of ceremonies, I often say to people, listen inside to the most powerful recognition that you have of the talents or the energies of that person. Because if you recognize some aspect, you will inherit it. It will come to you. And I have found that to be absolutely true. So Dick not only brought us all back around that circle of life, but he allowed us to come to a place of the spiral, which shifts us up. We have an experience, and it brings the next, and the next, and the next. So I'm so glad that you're here, and that we can close off that one circle and begin the next spiral of consciousness.
I think that Ken also was a part of that circle in El Salvador and had a lot of feelings that he's expressed a little bit to me, about what that meant to him in his life journey.
Being reacquainted with Joe and writing some of the volunteers, I thought that 2-year period was really an emotional, spiritual, philosophical, material and political awakening for me, and a foundation for the rest of my life that really altered my life completely.
Absolutely.
The ability to see people without the veneer of civilization. You can learn so much from seeing the raw emotions.
That's right. It's so interesting that you say that, Ken, because the work at the Light Institute began from those experiences in the Peace Corps, 9 years in the Peace Corps, with that recognition that it is the emotional body that sets the frequency of truth for us. Truth is not a constant, it's whatever we experience. And that continues to change our truths as we experience our lives. And so I think we were all so fortunate to be in a place where we could take off the mask of our own cultures, of all the imprints that we had, and find that pathway through to, again, what I call, the heart of all humanity. And we were very lucky to be able to open those emotional energies. And I feel that all people who work with other people so much need to have that kind of emotional connection. Otherwise, we never really see what's truth. I found in working in healing that it doesn't matter what you call it, an accident, a disease, whatever it is, there's always a point of reference, a synergistic point of reference of emotion. And that's why the body will express it or react to it in a certain way. And so we were given that opportunity to peel away, I think, energies that would have otherwise constricted us for our lives. So I'm very glad that you were there, and that we were all changed by it, and will continue to be changed by it. So that's great. What else?
Chris, with what's going on in Japan with the
Yes.
nuclear reactors, I wonder if you could talk about how we can work to help those situations where we can really start to learn how radiation doesn't have to hurt us. I mean, I've heard lots of stories about people going out and buying iodine or dulls, or stores being sold out because they're recognizing that their body, they want something to protect their bodies. But how can we really start to work with radiation and understand that it doesn't have to hurt us?
Yes, we don't have a reference point, really, for our relationship to what radiation is. And ourselves, living here in New Mexico, we have the opportunity to learn how to recognize when there is radiation moving in the atmosphere, moving from the earth, man-made or coming from nature. Humans have always been in relationship to those kinds of high, fast frequencies. And they can either strike the membrane and dissolve the integrity of the cell. Different kinds of radiations affect our bodies in different ways. Or, again, we can become aware of those kinds of frequencies in our consciousness so that we can use them rather than having them use us. One of the things that I've noticed with cancer patients is that, sorry about this, typically when they've had radiation, it's as if they become frozen someplace, and the body really cannot, it's as if it were burned, which is of course what happens to you in radiation, and it cannot take itself to the next off, it can't gather to it energies that can support it very well. So you kill off one thing, but then nothing comes up from that very, very often. And so one of the things that we use here at the Light Institute is the conversation of light. The body is made of light. The endocrine system is completely reactive to light, because the endocrine system is the threshold between the light body and the physiological body. So when we talk about radiation, we're talking about white light, hundreds of tones of white light, again, that we cannot see, but we can perceive. We can perceive these. And so if we could walk through the world, in fact, what a great consciousness would this be, to walk through the world instead of what's going to get me, what's out there that I can align to that can support me. Because radiation is going to quicken. It can cause mutations, or it can speed up, because that's what that kind of white light, radiant light is. It's a fast, fast frequency. So it can speed us up so that it can support the evolution of human bodies and human consciousness. But we have to release the "it's going to get me" aspect of it. I can remember I was at Chernobyl. I was at Chernobyl right after Chernobyl. And it was very fascinating to see what happened there. I was there several years past it as well. as right after it. And of course, again, here in New Mexico, we had the first bomb. And in Japan, all of that energy that's taken place there. I feel that there is a calling to us to be able to move with that kind of energy rather than it destroying us. So we have to have that awareness that we are ever evolving, that you, in psychogenetics, as we talk about, you are not just a replica of your parents, you're the next generation of your parents and your grandparents and your grandparents and your grandparents. So that something is there that continually causes that evolution. And we can focus in such a way that we can take it in and utilize it rather than have it destroy us. When it happened in Japan the first time, there was a story that there were a group of monks who were at ground zero, Hiroshima, and they sustained nothing. They were not destroyed. They had nothing happened for them. How could that be? What fascinates me is whatever happens to one person is available to us. So if we could use that as a template, what if we had a consciousness that instead of was overwhelmed by some atmospheric conversation or emotional conversation or whatever, that it somehow could allow it to just pass through and to be able to utilize what corresponded rather than be destroyed. Science will say that there is a photon belt, that the electromagnetic energy of the Earth is diminishing. Energies are coming in, new energies, not carbon-based, are coming into our planet. Therefore, we are going to be considering that possibility of more and more radiation on all levels. So I think that this is an opportunity for us, because for sure, what's going on in Japan, the radiation that's going on there will be coming this way, or has come this way, which is the same thing that happened at Chernobyl. It simply circled the planet. And you could mark as it went around the planet, you know. And as we saw the next year and a couple of years after that, the five-legged toads, frogs, the leaves, the plants that were, flowers that were this big, etc., etc. How can we use that? There's a way to use that rather than to say, oh, well, this is a mutation that's going to destroy it. Nobody was around to follow the frogs and see whether it was a good mutation or it destroyed them, you know. So this is an opportunity for us to say, let the radiation support the quickening of human genetic encoding, etc., so that it's something that we can utilize. We have it all the time in New Mexico. People come to New Mexico and they say, what a wonderful feeling it is here. It wakes me up. There's something, it's electric, it's buzzing. It's radiation. And the radiation coming out of Los Alamos is continuing, will continue for a half-life of 50,000 years. So those of us that have chosen to live here are here because we are ready to adapt to that, because we can adapt to that. There have been, in the valley outside of Los Alamos, some cases of poisoning from those kinds of radiation. But on the other hand, what else could there be? What else could we utilize that? So I used to take my students to Los Alamos, and I would start here and I would say, allow your consciousness to look at the molecules in the atmosphere. And now we're going to go to Los Alamos, and there's a certain place, it's about a 50-mile radius, where you begin to feel radiation if you're looking for it. You tell me when you experience it, recognizing that, you know, there's beta, there's gamma, there are different kinds of radiation, and the molecules look differently, and they affect the body in a different way. But what fascinates me, and I did this for 20 years, was that they all, not knowing New Mexico, not knowing what 50 miles was, I never told them anything, except tell me when you think you feel radiation. They always hit it at exactly that marker. And then we would go up there and they would begin to look at, in their consciousness, those kinds of radiation. So once we can recognize something, this is classical human, once we can put it in a box, or we can see it, or we can have a reference, we can give it a name, we can relate to it. And so we must begin to relate to radiation. Meanwhile, I still think it's a very good idea to eat algae, to take blue-green algae, to eat the algae of the sea, to do all of those things that will, again, help the body to assimilate or to relate to any kind of radiation that's coming, whether it's coming from nature or whether it's coming from something that's man-made. So let us be at peace with it and say, we came here for this. We are the templates of new humans, whether that's a genetic conversation or it's a spiritual DNA or whatever it is. It belongs to us. We have chosen it. Let us use it. I went to Japan one time and I said to them, because it happened to be at the anniversary of Hiroshima, and they were all kind of, and I said, I come from the place where the first bomb was dropped. My people were the first ones to be exposed to radiation. And what if, because your grandparents and your parents and your great-grandparents experienced Hiroshima and all of that, perhaps you already have something in you that aligns you to this energy. Look at the mentality of Japanese. They are so technological. They are very advanced. I've never met one who wasn't like this. Very, very fast. Who created computers? Who created technology as we see it in the world today? Humans. So we have the potential there to be changed, as we were talking about a little while ago, changed by our experiences in life in such a way that we ourselves change the future.
I'm assuming that the detoxing is getting sort of stuck at various points in my elimination system. And it does, so when I came back here, I've been back a few times, but when I came back this time, the immune system being suppressed affected, the adrenals being suppressed affected the immune system. So, I would think that that's probably an issue in Japan because the stress of everything then reduces the immune system. So really, when you see these systemic effects across the board, you look to the adrenals.
Exactly.
So if people look to the adrenals when they're experiencing these things, and if they treat the adrenals, they can, improve it all the way across. But it's not that easy to treat the adrenals.
But it is easy to treat the adrenals. I have to argue that point.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm ready to hear that.
All right.
And am I right in thinking that this just stirred something up that was in me anyway, or do you think that?
If you think it has stirred something up, then you can use that as a point of reference.
Yeah.
But the trick is exactly what we were talking about before. Either it uses you,
Right.
or you use it.
Well,
Now, I would definitely recommend for you that you do a liver flush because you're very.
I've done 3 in the
Have
past
you?
2.5 months.
Oh, maybe that's why you're a little bit yellow there.
Yeah. I'm wearing yellow too. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't see your yellow. I just see your skin.
Yeah.
And it's free. Well, ask your body if it wants it enough, if it wants it, or whether it's had enough. But something is moving it, keeping it in. That's why in Chinese medicine, we always take the top.
Yeah.
We treat the stomach and we treat the top of the head so that the energy can move out of the body.
Right.
And again,
I'm going to go to Peru again in about a week and a half.
Yeah. I would wait until you have that liver cleared up before you go to Peru.
Okay.
I know you think that clears the liver. I think it congests the liver. So
I think it's a little bit of a bomb attack. But
yeah.
I think
Yes.
but I think it does work.
Well, let's go back to the adrenaline conversation here. I think it's fascinating that you bring that up because definitely when there's stress, it's going to be about the adrenals because the adrenals are fight or flight, and I find that doesn't even need to be a terrible, shocking experience. You can go through those kind of emotional traumas because the emotional body is relating, just as you say often, my near-death experience. You have to dissolve that near-death experience, because every time you go back there, you trigger that place of vulnerability and confusion about, am I over there or am I here? Who am I? And so that is definitely related to your adrenals. And but remember that the endocrine system, because it puts the hormones directly into the blood, it is about light. They do have that kind of sensitivity. They connect through each other, all of the points of reference about who we are. Master glands, are they going to help the body function? That connection between the spiritual energy and the sexual energy, it's all connecting together. And so what I found is, if you extend light to your adrenals, you can actually shift the frequency. In Chinese medicine, we would say that the kidneys, are the deepest energy of the body, that the kidneys support the heart, and that the kidneys hold the ancestral chi. So they hold the psychogenetics, they hold all that you've inherited from your family, from your culture, all of the shocking experiences that you may have taken in, that somebody else was having, and you just took in as a child. They're all landing into that kidney area.
It's definitely been clearing.
Yeah. So we're going to do a little exercise right now, just for the kidneys, which of course include the adrenals, to begin to feel what it's like to, instead of having it use you use it, and command or direct your body in such a way that you shift what is actually happening in your body. So what we're going to do is we're going to just rub our hands together, and we're going to put our hands behind our back, above your waist, right over your kidneys. And again, the adrenals are little pea-sized glands that sit on top of your kidneys. So rub your hands together, put your hands on your waist, close your eyes. Imagine this little pea sitting on top of the kidneys, the whole configuration there. And ask your adrenals what frequency of light they need to come into perfect physiological balance at this moment. And just take a deep breath and just see what color pops into your consciousness. Whatever color you get, just imagine that you're sucking it in through your hands, first into the adrenals until you feel a shift, or you perceive them swelling or opening or clearing. Then let that color, that energy flow down into the kidneys, so that you're washing away the organ that holds fear, according to the Chinese. So again, suck in from your hands that color. Again, and just take a deep breath and open your eyes. The moment that you see a color, you are giving permission to shift something in your body. See, now your whole skin has changed just now. And this is what we want to do. We want to realize that we're walking around in these vehicles. They're not separate from us. We're not talking heads. We have to participate in here. And the body always knows exactly what frequencies, what electromagnetic currents it needs to bring itself into balance. So the moment that you get the color, you're actually causing it to happen. And that's the way we want to be in our lives. What do you need, body? And give the body what it needs, and it will shift. What color did you get?
Sort of peachish color.
A peachy color. Okay, so peach is orange, which takes away pain, it causes expansion, and pink, which is rejuvenation. So a really nice high vibration to move that energy. It's great. Who else got a color there? You want to tell me about it?
I got purple.
A light purple or a dark
It was a
purple?
very dark purple.
So dark purple is really a focus of power. And in terms of the energies, a dark purple is sort of spiritual knowing or spiritual majesty. So when you get that, it will allow your adrenals to remember themselves, so that you're not always fight or flight. It's so interesting to me learning all these different systems of medicine, that they're all, as the Chinese would say, everything is connected to everything. And so, for example, children and people who often get sore throats, that's always stress. It's always coming from the adrenals. And I have passed this on to people so many times. Okay, you have a sore throat, let's talk to your adrenals here. And lo and behold, the sore throat goes away. How can that be? What's causing it is surely some kind of bacteria. But the body's always having bacteria or viruses, and it's made to balance that. We don't have to try to kill it all. That's one of our problems in the West, is that we focus on the one thing, we try to kill that, and it brings the homeostasis out of balance. So when we see something one place, it may be telling us a story of something else. And that's why it's so important to, when you have something happen to you, like, a pain in your kidneys or something, to really stop for a moment and say, what's happening? Am I afraid of something right now? Am I afraid of what's coming? Am I remembering something past? What's going on? Because the emotional body, and it is an entity of consciousness, the emotional body has power over the physiological body. Okay, so thank you for that question. What else?
I have a question. What is the best way to help? I have a grandson that has been to Iraq and Afghanistan, and he survived. He is now out of the Army. He has PTSD, whatever that is.
Post-traumatic stress.
Right. Anyway, he has that, and he has extreme depression.
Yes.
I've been sending him light and love and all that, but is there anything else?
Well, first of all, let's talk about sending light, because I don't know if you, how you mean that. I know that we think about someone we love and we just, we extend that love to them.
Mm-hmm.
What we were doing in the beginning in the meditation was drawing the light in so that it's not your light that's going to him, because you have some relationship to him. And we cannot know in our outside consciousness what that means to him, or what you owe him or what he owes you from a spiritual perspective. So you want to draw it in and radiate it out without being involved in it, so to speak. That's what will help him. And people do feel that. They do experience that. And so you could specify, for example, what frequency of light do you need from me at this moment so that you won't be depressed, or so that you can know who you are, or whatever. And you can extend that. Another way to do that is to actually, in your meditation, ask, where is your body holding, again, it can be negative or positive, depression, or fear, or shock, or where is your body holding courage and centeredness? If it's the negative, what color does it need to be released? If it's the positive, imagine, he says, okay, I'm holding courage in my right shoulder. So then you could imagine that you're touching his right shoulder so that it could open and all that courage could nourish him. We do have psychic pathways in our brains. We can telepathically recognize information coming in at the speed of light. And so you can help him tremendously in those ways, just by using your consciousness. Now, at the Light Institute, we have two ways that we work with that specifically in terms of spiritual recognition. One is what we call consultations, exercises in consciousness, where we allow a person to, let's say, go back to whatever is going on that's shocking him. And you can actually remove memories. I learned this a long time ago when I worked on bodies. I would be doing deep tissue work. Maybe somebody had a structural problem, and I'd go in there, and suddenly they would remember when they were 3, they tripped over something, or somebody hit them there. those memories would come out of the mind of the cell. So you can release from the body memories. We do not have to hold memories. So helping to release those memories and to rebalance them. For example, maybe the sound of war is disturbing him. And so every time he hears a pop or a slamming door or something, it triggers an association, and in his mind he's hearing ba 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 ba, you know, or something like that. You can disconnect that. It's one of the things that we learned in the Peace Corps. One of the first things in Peace Corps training is what we call desensitization. You know, to remove that trigger, that every time you hear that, the emotional body functions by association and conclusion. So it goes, I remember that, and then the conclusion is somebody dies. And then, and what is depression? Depression is simply pressing down so that we don't experience life, so that the emotions don't come up. So we'd rather be numb on automatic pilot than face the fears. So we have what I call technologies of consciousness to begin to release those memories and rebalance them. For example, he could go into a time when he heard music that he loved, or a time when he trusted himself or trusted other people. These are memories from this lifetime. Now, of course, we also have a deeper way, which Amy does, of looking from this lifetime into what we call other incarnations of the soul. Where is the point of reference coming from? The moment that he sees it, that he replays it, that he dissolves it from his body, he shifts. So it's just a matter, it's kind of like stirring the pot. You know, are you going to be in the negative and it's controlling you, which we've been talking about this whole time, or are you going to use it? And I think it's such a shame. I think this is the problem with the way we do not help refugees to come into a country and be assimilated. We don't help. We have this problem in our border. We have not learned as humans how to find the points of reference of oneness that can take us from our fear of each other to, I'll help you, you can trust me, and you can trust yourself, and I know that you'll help me. And if we don't come to that point pretty soon, we're going to continue our history, and we don't need to. So I would say begin by just using the point that he's in your life. And that probably has an echo beyond this lifetime. And you can use these spiritual technologies to shift. Thousands of times people have written to me and said, I sent color to somebody and suddenly they called me. And I haven't talked to them in 5 years and they called me. Well, yes, because they felt that. They felt it. And the reason that we use color or we use the frequencies of light is because it goes beyond your personal emotions. All people, and we know that from psychology, all people, no matter what culture they are in, they recognize color, and they interpret it emotionally the same, no matter what culture they come from. It's very interesting. And so why is that? We may not know, but we know that it does influence them. So what will happen when you do that is that you will feel peaceful. My higher self says that anyone that comes into your awareness is someone that is showing you something, is helping your evolution, that belongs to you. Even if you see them on television and they're somebody from across the world. And if you looked at them in that way, you could know yourself in a different way, and you could also feel the purpose of your life. Because when you send light to your grandson, you are going to feel peaceful. We can't change other people's stories. It's the first thing we learned in healing, the first thing we learned in the Peace Corps, and certainly me with all the babies that died in my arms. It's not mine. It's not mine to save them. It's mine to do what I can to support their choice. And one of the teachings that I learned from all those deaths is the soul chooses its birth and its death, not you, not anyone else. And we have to honor that. That's the thing that I learned when the first baby died in my arms. That baby chose. And I learned it because her spirit came to me and showed it to me. And I didn't really believe in spirits at that point. But What are you gonna do when somebody pops into your consciousness and says what she said to me, which was, the choice of my death was mine. The time of my death was my gift to you. Therein changed my life. So when you know that, then you can help your grandson again by pulling the light in and participating, but not intertwining in a way that doesn't belong to you, belongs to him. And all souls, we think of the victim and the victimizer, all souls select experiences for the good, even though it seems horrendous to us. We can't know. We don't know. So, blessings to you, grandson. And all of the young people who have come back with that and need to be given more than tranquilizers and antidepressants. They need to be helped to take it out and come back to who they are. Not just who they were, but who they are.